Hey, David Kideckel is here with me now. He's the Managing Director of Research at AltaCorp Capital Inc. David, welcome.
Thanks for having me, James.
You bet. David, AltaCorp is Western Canada's largest investment bank. It's probably one of the best kept secrets. Give me a quick overview of what AltaCorp is and who's behind it.
Sure. So, I think AltaCorp Capital, one of Bay Street's best kept secrets, full capital markets investment bank based here in Toronto with offices both in Calgary, Denver, and Buenos Aires. We're backed by Western Canada's largest bank called ATB Financial, which provides companies full suite of banking products, whether that's debt, lending, etc. So on the one hand, we have the capital market side, and then we're also backed. Our majority shareholder is ATB Financial.
Sure. And you just had a conference here in Toronto that was really well attended. I've heard about it from so many people, which led me to find out who you are and how to get you in the studio. Tell me about the conference and what's the sort of the mindset at AltaCorp around the cannabis industry.
So we just hosted our 7th institutional investor conference here in Toronto. The first day focused on cannabis and life sciences. The second day was around oil and gas. The third day was in diversified industries. But we're here to talk about cannabis.
Okay.
So the first day, it was our most successful conference to date. We had a number of leading both U.S. and Canadian companies come in. I was moderating a number of panels, both with companies dedicated to recreational and medical cannabis, as well as cannabinoid-derived pharmaceuticals, or the pharma side of cannabis. There was just such a great buzz. There was standing room only. We held it at the Shangri-La Hotel, and we just can't wait for next year's conference.
You bet. I can't either. It's interesting. The pharma side of cannabis is widely anticipated to be where the greatest value creation is going to occur in the whole cannabis complex over the lifespan of the industry.
Sure.
And you've got direct knowledge, and you guys cover GW Pharma, which is the maker of Epidiolex, the first FDA-approved drug for use in children that is cannabis-based. Tell me about GW Pharma and what is their sort of future pipeline hold in terms of future value for investors?
Sure. So maybe I can just take a step back for a second to really provide some oversight as to what AltaCorp research actually brings.
Okay.
So we cover, like I said, not only medical and recreational cannabis, but the pharmaceutical side of cannabis as well, or cannabinoid-derived pharmaceuticals. This is in stark contrast to any firm, whether that's Bay Street or Wall Street, where you'll typically see medical and recreational cannabis in one franchise, and then the pharma side of cannabis, or cannabinoid-derived pharmaceuticals, in the other. So it's a core capability that, from a research standpoint at AltaCorp, we're really just thrilled to be able to bring to our clients. Now, GW Pharma, we just launched this week. The world widely recognized as the world leader in cannabinoid-derived pharmaceuticals. We're the only Canadian firm to actually cover GW Pharmaceuticals. Just spoke with them, in fact, this week. And to your point, James, their lead compound, Epidiolex, made history back in June when the United States FDA approved the first ever plant-derived cannabinoid for therapeutic use ever. And then subsequent to that, the United States DEA rescheduled Epidiolex, which is 98% CBD, rescheduled from a Schedule I illegal substance to a Schedule V substance with recognized therapeutic uses. So we're just thrilled to have coverage of this world leader in the space, and certainly any company that I engage with, especially on the pharmaceutical side, looks to GW for the right way to engage through lawful regulatory and commercialization practices.
So now, is GW strictly focused on cannabinoid extracts and compounds, or is cannabis extracts and compounds just a branch of a much larger platform?
So GW Pharma is widely regarded as the authority in cannabinoid-derived pharmaceuticals. So everything they do is focused on cannabinoids, extraction. They do all of this themselves in-house. They're based in the UK with corporate headquarters as well in Carlsbad, California, which I've been to, of course. And besides CBD or Epidiolex, again, which is their lead compound, which we've forecasted to be a blockbuster drug exceeding $1 billion in sales. They have a number of other cannabinoids that are currently being studied. There's another drug as well that's approved for use in the UK, or in Europe, I should say, called Sativex. It's a 50-50 split between THC and CBD. It's used for spasticity that's associated with multiple sclerosis. So GW has an extensive pipeline, we believe. They're not a one-trick pony. And we're just thrilled to be able to have a knowledgeable team that's able to actually cover a company of this magnitude.
Right. GW Pharma then is, what's the market cap of GW Pharma right now?
They're around the $4 billion US dollar mark.
Okay, so from your perspective, is that just sort of like the early stage of where this company is going to go valuation-wise?
We think so. I mean, we've put a target price of $160 on them. The last time I looked, they were trading at just north of 120 US, of course. But we think this is the real deal in cannabinoid-derived pharmaceuticals.
Wow. What other companies in the landscape that are perhaps nowhere near the valuation of GW might investors be warranted looking at that might have a future similar to GW Pharma's?
It's a really good question. I'll take a step back again and just say we just launched coverage of the entire sector this week, and in that we've compiled and provided a lot of insight around cannabis, both from the U.S. market standpoint, Canadian standpoint, and international markets, where we've pegged what we think the market sizing opportunities will be. We've also explored cannabinoid-derived pharmaceuticals to provide investors and clients with up-to-date knowledge. In fact, I've heard from several folks saying, just complimenting the level of rigor involved in this industry overview piece. So we're very pleased to have that. I'm happy to send that to you if you'd like as well.
You bet.
Within that report, we also launched on another couple of companies called Valens Growworks, which is based out of Kelowna, BC. We think it's one of the premier businesses in the entire cannabis sector, focusing really on extraction, and that's their core capability. They have leading partnerships with Thermo Fisher Scientific, where they have a center of excellence at their Kelowna operation, as well as the Canadian exclusive rights to a company called Terrakino, a US-based company that's involved with beverages and looking at emulsification technology. The other company that we launched on this week was called Auxly, which we also feel is a very undervalued company involved in the streaming businesses, and in particular, what they can offer in both the midstream segment and the downstream segment, we feel is they're really going to do well, and we forecasted them as well for a price target of $1.50.
Wow, interesting. I also noticed that you had coverage of Aphria and Liberty Health Sciences, and that's of sort of interest right now because there was this attempt by a group of short strategists to undermine the credibility of the company and achieve a exit at a lower price, which by all accounts seems to have fizzled and failed. And certainly the idea that a company like AltaCorp covers Aphria and Liberty Health Sciences kind of puts you in the opposite position to say, you know, with quite serious authority that nice try, guys, but you really missed the bar. Did they really miss the bar?
So, for full disclosure, we don't cover Aphria or Liberty Health Sciences.
Oh.
We did in the past when my predecessor was holding my seat.
I see.
So we don't hold coverage of Aphria or Liberty Health Sciences. That said, I was on the earnings call, as I'm sure a lot of analysts were this morning.
Yep.
And there was, of course, news with the CEO and one of the board members stepping down. Which is it's interesting. I think maybe somewhat expected from what I've heard from a lot of people. That's what I can comment about.
Okay,
yeah.
That really clears the way for Green Growth Brands, who's made a takeover offer at $11 a share. I mean, it looks to me like they're just getting ready to say, okay, here you go, guys, have at her.
Well, it's an interesting way to look at it for sure. Certainly today the stock has been rallying quite a bit because in large part the short seller announced right during the actual earnings call that they're moving on to other projects now, and Aphria now is no longer a target for them.
Wow, interesting. So tell me about Auxly. What's it about Auxly that you think is really going to drive the share price higher in 2019?
So we think they have both Canadian and international operations. We really feel that a centerpiece of Auxly is their dose can operation, which is based in Charlottetown, PEI. This is involved in similar extraction processes and techniques to say a Valens as well. And it's going to allow them to produce white label products, branded products. DoseCan also has the exclusive rights to Canada and Mexico for another well-known Colorado-based brand called Dixie. I've toured the Dixie site as well. And so we feel like they're positioned very well for success. And really what's key to Auxly is a centerpiece of their business model is really it's well risk mitigated. Because they're involved with a number of different streaming partners throughout the board, and they're also involved with very high margin product segments like the edibles, beverages, and those kinds of products once they actually come online in Canada by late 2019 sometime.
Wow, very good. All right, David, let's leave it there for now. We'll come back to you as soon as you possibly can be here again, full of excellent insights. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks, James. Pleasure.